Confusing? Maybe. Fun? Probably. We're probably going to end up prioritizing the short-term plays this week, and we will likely have to revisit a lot of it, but, we might have some fun with it. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and you can get a reading, and you can learn astrology and all of that sort of stuff at zambonifunk.com. You can also listen to the music. You should probably do that. So this week, Mercury is going to be moving into Pisces. Probably that's happening like right now or something like this. So good luck to me saying something clear. Mercury is not super clear. Mercury does not prioritize clarity in Pisces. That's not what Pisces does. Pisces is big picture. Pisces is feelings. Pisces is vibes. Pisces loves a vibe, even if it's not a good vibe, but a vibe that feels strongly. Pisces is all about that shit. And so Mercury, whose job it is to communicate and to understand what's taking place because the thing is so perfectly matched to other, like pattern recognition and that sort of stuff. This is Mercury's job. So whenever I see Mercury in a water sign, I think of the receptive side of communication a lot. It's very important to remember that communication is two-sided. This is part of the thing about Mercury, right? Mercury is two-faced. Mercury goes both directions all the time, and like Mercury goes both ways, obviously, right? And so so the communication thing is both expression and impression. It's both speaking and listening. This is one of the very most important things that we can possibly remember. And so Mercury in the yin spaces, that's going to be the earth signs and the water signs, then that's the place where you really prioritize the impression, where you prioritize reading and listening and information coming in. You feel the vibes of that in a really strong way. So Mercury moving into Pisces this week is going to be really good for vibes, really good for poetry, really good for melody and song and painting and stuff like that, especially since later in the week we can also see that Venus is going to move into Pisces. Now, Mercury doesn't really like Pisces very much. Mercury is said to be in fall in that place and is also as far from home as possible, given that Mercury rules Virgo. And so this is a place that is difficult for Mercury. Venus, on the other hand, is about it. Venus loves some Pisces. Venus is actually exalted there. That is to say that Venus does the Venus things, which is cooperation and beauty and arts and pleasure and delicious things and putting things together and feeling smooth and silky and all of those kinds of things. Those things they happen really easily in this space. Now, Pisces is a space that is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is also exalted in Cancer and making a trine to Pisces. So that is to say that Jupiter can really help out a lot of the stuff that's going on in Pisces. So even if Mercury's not having a great time with it, Jupiter's here to help, and Venus is here, gonna have a great time about it. And so eating delicious things and all of this sort of stuff, especially if we have like a romance holiday coming up and you want to eat some chocolate and have some dessert at the end of the meal and all of that sort of stuff, that actually looks pretty good this year. So I do like the Pisces things for their sensory delight. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that this week. Now, what we can notice is that Mercury is going to be coming up on a retrograde in Pisces pretty soon. And so that's what I mean by like, maybe some of this is going to be like short-lived in some kind of way. Maybe there's going to be a situation where, you see what I did there? See how I caught that? But maybe there's going to be a situation where we have to come back and revisit some of the things before problems get solved or something like that. Also, part of the reason why I mentioned the short-term play is because Saturn is going to be moving into Aries for keepsies this week. So that is to say that Saturn has been in Pisces for the last 2.5 years or something, and is going to be moving into Aries for good. And so we're not going to see Saturn moving back into Pisces anymore. We're Saturn in Aries, and not only Saturn in Aries, but we're also going to start to see this conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in Aries. That's going to be building up for a little while. We've got another week or two on that, and so everybody's going to be feeling a lot of feelings with that. And so Aries is short term by its nature, right? So what Aries love, I think about short Aries as being like the spark in some kind of way, like getting things going. I think about the first shoots of spring. Aries is very concerned with what's going on with me and my ideas, like the very first thing that comes out of the ground, and it's like, oh yes, here I am, we can start the year now. Aries loves to be the beginning of the zodiac and all that sort of stuff, right? So I think of that match flame a lot of times. So you strike the match and then it burns super brightly for a second and then it goes out after not very long. Hopefully that was enough to get something else started, but the match itself isn't doing that much, right? I have a lot of Aries placements myself, and so I really prioritize a nap a lot of times because I know that I'm going to be strong in the morning, and then about 3 hours in, I am burnt out. I'm already done. So let me sleep about it, and I'll be ready to go again once I get up from my nap, right? So I think about that as the Aries way of doing things. Now Saturn's job is longevity. Saturn's job is to think of long-term consequences and stuff like that. So Saturn is fallen in this place. That is to say that Saturn doesn't do the Saturn things very well in this position. Saturn is uncomfortable here. And okay, so Saturn's job is also boundaries, discipline, that sort of thing. Saturn is closely conjunct Neptune, even if it's not the perfect exact conjunction. They're in the same degree of Aries, and so we'll call it a perfect conjunction anyway. Neptune's job is to dissolve boundaries. And so where Saturn is already uncomfortable and not doing a very good job doing the Saturn things, then you add Neptune to it, and it's just everything becomes super porous and nothing matters anymore. I think of Saturn in Aries as there is only one rule. The rules are not the rules, right? The laws that are in place and all of that sort of stuff, that's really nice and fancy and everything, but like, can the thing actually be done? So it's like, you can think about theft, for example, right? There's a law against theft. Should not do that. But maybe you can. Maybe it can actually be done. It doesn't violate the laws of physics in order to do it, right? And so that's what we're talking about when we're saying that the rules are not the rules. The sort of standards that especially authority figures have put into place and this kind of thing, that you are likely throughout this time period. So we've got a long time of Saturn in Aries. Saturn's going to be in Aries for 2.5 years. And so there's going to be plenty of time to get to know what's going on with Saturn in Aries. During this time, the authority figures are likely to need a lot of attention. So like, this is the whole like, here I am and I'm ready to play sort of situation. If Saturn represents managers and overseers and stuff like that, then the ones who make the rules, you're going to need to salute them sometimes. You're going to need to like kiss the ring or this kind of thing. You know what I mean? But then what actually happens is what actually happens. We just had this big assembly of planets in Aquarius with Pluto under the beams of the sun. So there's all this invisible stuff, all invisible power plays that have got into motion. So there were like, think of the new moon as there was a new moon in Aquarius there with all that Pluto stuff. And with, I think Mercury was there and Venus was there and Mars was there also. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. So the new moon is like a seed planting moment where then the whole moon cycle will happen, and by the full moon you've got flowering and seeds and or fruit, bearing fruit and that sort of stuff. So a lot of planets did that. So it's not just the moon, but also Mars and also Venus and also Mercury had that same sort of situation happen there in Aquarius. And so we've got these longer term cycles of invisible power plays that are going to take place while the managers and the rule makers are very frontally like, hey, I'm very important, and so you're going to need to do the things that I said you're going to need to do. So there's a question about where is the real power? Is the power in the rules, or is the power somewhere else? So there is a good opportunity for us to find where we actually have our power and where that can maybe sidestep some of the rules or some of these kinds of things as we move forward, as the rules become even more bonkers. For example, I use my music to accompany my videos, and I get my shit taken down a lot because of that. So what are we gonna do about this? I don't know.